Hi, it's Danielle Panabaker. Just wanted to say Mike, Nico, Bryan, and Dustin. And thank you for being a Friday the 13th fan. That movie was so fun. I met some of my best friends on that movie. And I just want to say thanks for watching. Thanks for being a fan. And a reminder, don't go out there. Take care.
In a world where zombies, ghosts, serial killers, and vampires all exist, it's Nico, Bryan, Mike, and Dustin, and they are all that stand between you and the films that could end the world. Welcome to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Review Podcast. Just want to thank all our fans and listeners for all the support. We really appreciate it. Before we jump into tonight's film review, I just want to give a quick shout out to our social medias, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Just search for that on those platforms and you'll find us. And also a quick shout out to our website, don'tgoooutthere.com. We've got all of our episodes, our interviews, our celebrity shout outs, our store, our blog, everything that you need to know about our podcast is there. We recently launched what we call Blood Donor. It's basically just our form of a Patreon. We've gotten a lot of, questions from fans, how can they help us? And that's the best way to do it. Just click on our website and check out the Blood Donor, our Patreon.
So you want to know more about what it means to be a blood donor, huh? Well, we've launched a new Patreon-esque campaign, and that's what it's called, Blood Donors. How awesome is that? We've created 5 donor tiers that give you the chance to earn different perks with donations, and in exchange for you helping us keep the lights on, you can earn t-shirts, autographed pictures, and even the opportunity to join us for an episode of your choice. Any donation goes straight to helping us with web hosting, SoundCloud hosting, guest procurement, etc. We have some of the best, most loyal listeners you'll find, and we love each and every one of you, and can't believe every day we get to do this. Just go to www.don'tgoooutthere.com and click donate, and oh yeah, there will be blood.
And we also have a really exciting announcement. We have joined the Big 3 Roll-Up Network. What does that mean and what is that? All 4 of us are friends because of Florida State football. We all follow each other on Twitter, and that we've all become really good friends over time. And now we make this show together, talk about horror, interview horror icons. So they saw how much we've grown, and they wanted us to join their network. So we graciously accepted, and we're truly thankful that they thought so highly of us to want us to be a part of their network. So going forward, we'll be partnered with the Big 3 Roll-Up Network. Nothing of our content has changed at all, but we are super excited about our partnership with them. All right. Tonight is a special review for us. Tonight is Brother Mike's pick, and he chose the 2009 reboot of Friday the 13th. Brother Mike, do you want to kick us off with your general overview, my man?
Yeah, so look, I picked this movie for a couple of reasons. One, I really just enjoy the film. If you go all the way back to our Friday the 13th franchise rankings, which we did, God, it's been over a year now. Almost a year and a half ago, I believe that we did that. And that wasn't Dustin's first episode per se, but it was his first one where he got to actually talk and give some thoughts and stuff like that. And that was a lot of fun. So I know that I'm kind of a lone wolf here in this group where I'm not the big Friday the 13th fan like you guys are. I'm not a diehard. And so at the time I was kind of scared to give my more controversial opinions, and this movie is controversial for a lot of reasons, and I understand that. And if you're a big time Jason Voorhees fan and Friday the 13th fan, I can understand you not loving this film, but I do. I'm not a diehard fan of the franchise, and I think they did a bunch of stuff so well. So again, I think this is the best film in the franchise. I know I'm not the only one on this episode that's going to say that. This movie's special for a lot of reasons. One, it was the first legal rated R movie that I ever saw, so that's a fun fact. The first one I ever saw as a legal 17-year-old, so that's kind of fun. Also, I know that it's special to Bryan. I'm going to let him tell that story for, I'm sure there's a couple of reasons, but I just love Derek Mears' portrayal of Jason in this movie. I think that as far as stock teenage characters go, these ones are pretty good. I know there's a lot of complaints about the characters. I personally don't mind it. I know a lot of people complain about the long beginning. I don't mind that either. The character of Trent catches a lot of heat. You're supposed to hate Trent. And I think they do a really good job of executing that. I can't stand this fucker every time I watch this movie. And so I think they do such a good job with that. There's some comedic relief, and they kind of play into the tropes and stereotypes of those two characters on purpose. So again, some of the stuff that they kind of throw as generic slasher stuff is kind of on purpose. And so I like that. I love the direction. This movie is dark, it's gritty. And to me, when we talk about Jason, Michael, and Freddy, when we get the dark, more serious versions of those characters, those are the films I tend to enjoy more. Like Final Chapter, you get a more serious Jason. I think so. I know that I love Jason Lives. He's a little silly in that movie, but that movie's so good, it's kind of I'm willing to forgive it. But when we get a more serious Voorhees, Krueger, and Myers, I tend to really latch on to those films more because there's just better movies all around for the most part. And so, they don't go over the top with the camp here. The kills are brutal. I love some of these kills. I hate one of these kills. I'm gonna wait on that. But yeah, again, I'm really excited to kind of go back to our logo, which I like to do every now and then, and kind of dive in. And I felt like this was a good time, and I wasn't going to wait around on Bryan to pick it because I admire Bryan's willingness to pick stuff kind of out of the box and stuff he's really wants to review. And I just felt like it was time to do this movie. So instead of waiting on him to get to it, I decided to pick it for him. So
Sounds good.
excited to talk about it. And again, this movie holds a special place for this show, which I don't know if Nico wants to go next, but whenever it gets to Bryan, I'll let him tell that story.
Well, you're wrong because I'm going to tell that story, brother. I'm sorry. I'm going to steal Bryan's thunder.
No, go for it.
Because I saved this tweet whenever we quoted it the last time and brought it up. But September 25th, 2019 at 9:05 p.m., a man on Twitter by the name of @bhath4 tweeted a picture of his television and it was a picture of New Line Cinema. And the caption is #Friday the 13th kind of night. Fast forward to, what's the day? May the 4th. May the 4th be with you, to all you Star Wars fans. That tweet is what got Bryan on this show, honestly, because when we first started this, it was just me, Mike, and former co-host Drew talking about, hey, let's do a horror podcast. Bryan tweeted this picture, and the rest is history. Now Bryan is our producer. He does so much for the show. He's awesome. He gets us a majority of all of our big-time guests. Bryan is the man. So I know, and this is his favorite Friday the 13th movie, so I know this has got to be even extra sentimental that now look where we are now. We've interviewed Robert Englund, for Pete's sake. We've had 3 different Jason actors. So I know this is a very sentimental movie for Bryan and for all of us. And I'm going to let him touch on that some more whenever it gets to his turn. I'll just give my quick thoughts on the movie. Like Mike mentioned, a lot of the diehard Friday the 13th fans kind of nitpick this movie a lot, which I'm a part of. But I'm also going to rate this movie very highly because I do like it. Saw and Friday the 13th are my 2 babies when it comes to horror franchises I'm very critical of. But my critique is just out of love. It's not out of hate. Are there a lot of things in this movie I don't like? Yes. But is there a lot of things I do like in this movie? Yes. And big shout out to Derek Mears, one of the nicest guys that we've ever met. Super nice guy and a
Absolutely.
very good Jason actor. I'm going to let Brother Bryan go now and just hear his thoughts on his favorite Friday the 13th movie. Go ahead, Bryan.
Man, yeah, and we've talked about this before. It was just crazy. Everything happens for a reason, and so it's not only sentimental because all of that happened, and it basically got me, the opportunity to join the show, and like I said before, whenever Nico asked me to come on, I thought it was just for like a guest appearance or whatever. He was like, "No, I want you to come on and be one of the hosts." So it's I've ever gotten a chance to be a part of. It's been tremendous, and to make it even more special, we were talking about this earlier. We get a chance to join a Big Three Roll Up Network today, and it's this movie. So I mean, it's just everything played out, and it's fantastic. So, and like I said before, it's pretty well known that I love this movie. I mean, you could even say it's stupendous. Um, but and I've shared my theater experience. I've shared my theater experiences before. With being a fan of Jason and Friday the 13th as a kid, and finally getting to see some of the movies in the theater. And it was Freddy versus Jason, and then I get dog shit Jason X, and so like finally I get this one.
Mother.
Let's we can table that, but finally I get this movie. And like Mike said, if you listen to our Friday the 13th rankings, I was not shy about ranking this one at the very top of my list. And since then, Mike's come on board with that, but I've always going hard in the paint for this one, and another one that everybody doesn't really like. That's a lot more controversial, but I won't get into that one right now either. But I am a diehard fan of the character, to the point to where like Jason is my favorite character of the big three. Now, and I've also said this before. I think the franchise is a clusterfuck, and there's a lot. It's a gigantic mess. And we'd be here for hours getting into it if we did. But just to really keep myself from rambling on when I have so much thoughts in my head like about a movie. This movie is what I wanted Jason. No, this movie is what I wanted a Friday the 13th movie to always be. Like, it was grounded in reality, while still having that zombie type Jason brutality. And this may be controversial, but let me try to say how I mean to say this. Like, I love Friday Part 4 and 6. I mean, there are a few more that I like, so this is not me being a hater. Again, like, Jason is my favorite character, but to me, like, this is the first good movie. Like, I didn't say good Friday the 13th movie, because to me there's a distinct difference. Like, Friday Part 4 and 6 are good Friday movies to me, but this is a good movie to me all around. Rewatchability is off the charts for me. It's right up there with Ghostbusters, where I can just pop it in anytime. Thankfully I can, because it got me on the show. I never get tired of it. Like Nico mentioned, we got to meet Derek Mears, who's absolutely amazing, by the way. We've gotten a lot of really awesome people that we've met because of the show, and he's top 2 and may not be number 2. Like, he was that great and just nice of a guy. I always said if they were going to reboot or remake a franchise, that it should be Friday the 13th. And like in 2009, I finally got that. I finally got everything I wanted to. I just wish that we would have, gotten that follow up in the snow like they had written before Cunningham and Victor Miller, basically killed the franchise again. But we won't get into that either.
Yeah. So, like Mike mentioned, the Friday the 13th rankings episode was one of the first times that our listeners heard my voice on the show. And I ranked this film third in the franchise, behind the original, which I had second, and Part 6, which is never going to be not number 1 for me. If I had it to do over with, and I go back and forth all the time between the original and this one for my second favorite in the franchise. I know that's a hot take on this show, apparently, but it's okay. You guys could be wrong. I love this movie. Like you said, I mean, it does have the rewatchability factor. We finally got a reboot after there was such a bad taste left in our mouth with the last 3 installments. And I think that it lived up to the hype, whereas like the Nightmare on Elm Street reboot didn't. Right. We all have our issues with that film. This one, not nearly as many issues. This is a good movie. The cast is pretty good now. Well, I'll talk about that when we get into it. But I was going to mention the stock team characters, play off of what Mike said, but I'm going to wait till we get into the actual breakdown. But yeah, I mean, Friday the 13th and Saw, just like Nico, and I would even throw Scream up there close to it as well. That's my favorite horror franchises. And this one did it proud. I love this movie, and I'm excited that Mike finally picked it.
Hey Nico, before you start scene by scene, I just want to say, like, I I I don't hate this franchise at all. I enjoy the franchise as a whole, but kind of like what Bryan said, like I just never got any of the movies that I really wanted out of this franchise, and to me, this was the first one that I saw that I just really latched
Yeah.
onto. The rewatchability is so high, and this gets labeled a remake a lot, and I can understand that. But to me, this is almost a complete reboot. There's some copy kills from part two and part one, obviously, in the very beginning. But this is a completely new movie, some completely new takes on the character, and I just thought it was really well done. And I part of the reason I picked this movie was because I know it's going to be a good discussion episode, as all of our big three slasher ones are, where we just kind of talk the franchise. Obviously we're going to break down the film, but I really look forward to just kind of talking shop about Friday the 13th. Bryan said we're not going to talk about Miller and Cunningham. You goddamn right we are. Fuck those guys. Let's get this thing done with. This movie should have had a great sequel already. I mean, it's ridiculous. This was the last one we have. It's been way too long, and if they did redo this franchise again, I would be totally fine following this movie up. They're not going to do that, but I mean, I just think this movie left such a good taste in my mouth for Friday the 13th movies. I wanted to see more for the first time in a long time, and I just feel like I really want this review to kind of be, how we all feel about the franchise, because I know we've done it a lot. I've given Manhattan a lot of shit in the past, but I mean it's only because I really want a good Friday the 13th movie, and we haven't gotten that in a long time, to me, anyways, until this. And Nico, the same way you feel about Saw and Friday is exactly how I feel about Halloween. So we come at our franchises we love the same way. We just happen to disagree because you may not see Halloween like I do, and I don't see Friday like you do. So that's kind of what makes this show a lot of fun to me.
Well, and you mentioned the reboot and the remake thing. Like, I'm guilty of calling this thing a remake, but it's I'm fully 100% on board with it being a reboot, because it's not. It didn't really tell the whole story of the first one all over again. Like, this could almost be like Halloween 2018, like where you could slot it right in after the first one. Like, it could be
Absolutely,
basically the follow up
absolutely,
second one. So,
absolutely.
and there's a reason for that, which I actually have in my notes about Victor Miller. So there's actually there's a reason why it's, kind of a not just full on remake. And I'm glad that they didn't do that. Now I'm glad that it's more of a reboot and Halloween 2018 type of thing.
Yeah, I'll let you touch on the Victor Miller thing. I was going to bring it up. I'll let you do it. Honestly, I think Dustin should just take some of his wealth and just buy the rights to the franchise and let's move on with it. But we'll just
I
jump
beg
into the
your
scene by
pardon?
scene. What? I'll say something wrong?
Honestly,
Oh, my bad.
Yeah.
honestly, it would be my favorite thing Dustin ever did. Not close.
What the hell's going on here?
No, never mind. Don't buy the
I
rights,
just
Dustin, because then you'll get Rob Zombie to take over and you'll ruin it. Never mind. I take
It'll
that
be a
all back.
better film then.
All right. Anywho,
honestly,
let's
I'd
jump
be.
into this thing.
I know. Hot take. I'd be down to see Rob Zombie's take on this franchise. I would.
You
Oh,
damn
would.
right.
I
You
oh
would.
damn
God.
right.
I mean, we already
Sorry.
kind of saw it with Halloween 2007. So fuck it.
I just opened up an evil can of worms. All right, let's jump into the scene by scene.
Hey, what's the dish, Ishmael? Huh?
All right, and I'll just go ahead and say the first two scenes I got wrote down is the opening, and this opening is amazing. The opening could be honestly a short film, and it would be 10 out of 10 short film. Film starts with credits and date June 13th, 1980 at Camp Crystal Lake. We see a teenage girl in pain running from Pamela Voorhees. Pamela tells her she deserves to be punished for what they've done, and she should have been watching him so he didn't drown. She cuts Pamela's head off as a young Jason watches on. She hobbles away and Jason finds his mother's locket. Jason, my special, special boy, we hear. He stands up and takes the machete. They must be punished for what they've done to you and me. Kill for me, she tells him. Crystal Lake, present day. We meet 5 campers hiking. Wade leads them with a map. The rest of them don't think he knows where he's going. Richie says we camp here, and in the morning they'll go look for the crop before everyone wakes up. They're going to be selling weed to make lots of money. Around a campfire, Wade tells them he found a bunch of rundown cabins, then tells them the story of Pamela and Jason Voorhees. He was there and watched his mom being beheaded. Richie debunks it, saying there's tons of lakes named Crystal Lake. Mike and Whitney leave to go explore, and Richie and Wade chat. Whitney says she doesn't feel right being away from her mom. Amanda strips for Richie while Wade tells Richie that they're only a half a mile away from the crop. Richie zones out and tells Wade he's got to bounce when Amanda throws her bra at him. Wade dismisses himself, and Richie and Amanda go have sex in the tent. Wade goes into the woods to look around. He stops to take a leak and finds the crop, and he's super excited. Not for long, though, when he sees a giant man who charges him, slashing him, killing him. Hesitantly, Whitney and Mike go into an old cabin to scope it out. Whitney thinks a homeless person lives here. The place is a disaster, full of old, rundown stuff. Mike finds a locket with a woman that looks similar to Whitney. He says she should keep it. They find a little kid's room with the name Jason on the bed. Back to the tent, and Amanda has Richie stop when she hears someone outside the tent. She thinks Wade is watching them. Richie yells to him it's not cool, and we see a shadow of a figure walking behind the tent. Another noise, and they stop again. Richie yells out he's going to kill him and goes back in the tent. Amanda says no more sex until he goes out there and tells Wade to stop. Richie goes to the woods, and Amanda bundles up in the tent. She peeks out and calls for Richie to no answer, but hears a stick break and rustling. Back in the tent she goes. Richie calls for Wade, and he finds his glow stick in the weed crop. He then finds Wade's ear and headphones in his dead body. Jason appears behind the tent and slices it open, pulling Amanda out of it. Richie runs to find her hung over the fire inside of a sleeping bag, being burned alive. He gets his leg trapped in a bear trap, unable to help her. Amanda's body falls out the sleeping bag dead as he watches on. Back in the cabin, Mike shows Whitney the shrine of Pamela Voorhees' head. They panic when they realize what it is, and then a door slams. They creep cautiously, and a machete comes from below the floor, stabbing towards Mike. He's hit in the foot, then the leg, then through his hand. Jason reaches through the broken floor, dragging Mike below as he tells Whitney to run. Whitney runs to camp, and Jason pursues after her. Whitney gets back to camp and finds Amanda's burnt corpse and gets to Richie. She tries to help get him out of the bear trap, but Jason charges him and rams machete deep into his skull and killing him. He kicks his head down and goes to slash at Whitney, and then it cuts to a title card. All right, Brian, that's an action-packed opening scene. Tell us your thoughts about it. It's awesome. I'll go ahead and spoil it.
Yes, it is. In 30 minutes into the movie, and we finally get that title card, but which is actually fun fact, the longest prologue for a horror movie ever. And apparently there's a reason for that, and it kind of, like we touched on, it has to do with rewrites, and of course goes back to that lawsuit with Victor Miller and the whole remake versus reboot debate, which we just talked about. But apparently, if it was just a straight out remake, they would have owed Miller more money since he owned script rights back then. That's what the whole lawsuit's about, since he owned script rights to the first movie. But, since most of what he had written, legend wise was kind of condensed to this whole first little bit here, it can, they can kind of go forwards with it and kind of be seen as a reboot or sequel and not just a straight up remake. Which, again, I'm completely on board with. Was there anything else, Nico, that you had about that Victor Miller thing that you wanted to talk about?
No, I just read that he sued them, or he went to the courts. I can't remember the exact fun fact, but apparently he got paid less money because they deemed it not a sequel or something like that. I can't remember, but go ahead, Brian.
And he claims that they did that on purpose so they wouldn't have to pay him as much. But hey, we'll get into that later. It's a nightmare. But, long open or not, it's fucking tremendous. The black and white rehashing of the events of the first one, I thought was handled and shot very well. Probably no coincidence that Mark Nespel directed this one and the 2003 remake of Texas Chainsaw, which, we all loved so much as well. I have to give my girl Nana Visitor her props because I'm a big Star Trek fan. So shout out to her. She did a tremendous job as Pamela Voorhees. But I will say, so I hope you're listening to this, Nico. I liked Pamela's portrayal by Paula Shaw a little bit better in Freddy vs. Jason, but only because it looked more like Betsy Palmer and just a little bit more dark. I liked it better. But Visitor does a great job here as well. it's canon. But by the way, here's some useless trivia for me that's kind of stuck in my head just because we were talking about the Friday the 13th timeline off air the other day. But they actually changed it from 1979, which it was originally, because there wasn't a Friday the 13th then, to 1980. So there was actually a 13th on a Friday that would kind of fit in the timeline, in the real world. Plus, this puts Jason living in the woods for a few days by himself as a kid before seeing his mother beheaded, and not the weirdness that was the first few movies. And Mike, I don't know. I wanted to ask you: am I the only one that thinks Ben Feldman, that plays Richie, looks just like Thomas Ian Nicholas from Kevin from American Pie?
They're very
I mean,
similar face shape, especially the hair.
I
For
thought it was
sure.
him. I thought it
Right.
was him for a long time. I
Oh,
had
that would
to
have been
look it up.
hilarious.
And also, I think the usage of Motorhead was great. As Wade finds the pot, and his kill was badass. Watch the killer cut of the movie, by the way, to see his actual kill, because I believe the theatrical cut kind of cuts away from it. The killer cut also has more Amanda nudity as well, which kind of brings me to another fun fact that producer Michael Bay walked out of the premiere, citing "quote unquote" too much nudity. Look, shut up, Michael Bay. Look, this is a Friday the 13th movie. I mean, come on. Like, you're the
That
dumbass that puts this in like the whole same cinematic universe as Transformers just because of Trent. No, look, just sit this one out. That's ridiculous.
Well,
Were you gonna,
I read that it wasn't necessarily the nudity; it was the sex scenes,
well,
because that is a pretty graphic sex scene.
the verbiage I actually read was too much tits. So I assume I took that for nudity. So I mean, but
does not. Never mind.
I mean, just look, you got to know what you're making. Like, I mean, you never watched Friday the 13th movie? Like, that's 80s Friday the 13th, like, is nudity. Like,
Not
gratuitous
part 6.
nudity. I mean, it's not part 6. You're right about that.
And that's why it's not the GOAT.
Oh, geez. Anyway, look, great use of score, like more than just like a loud sound effect. The way it's used with the cuts, just like O3 Chainsaw, I think is tremendous. Amanda's kill, spoiler alert, is my favorite in this movie because of the sheer like brutality of it. I mean, we've had sleeping bag kills in the franchise before, but you almost laugh, and you don't laugh because it's like dumb, but haha. But you're like, haha, holy shit! It's almost like an uncomfortable laugh on some of them. But there's something about this one, how it like just keeps showing her face inside, which in the killer cut, there's a little bit more to her inside as well as Richie's, like it's shown longer, dripping blood, etc. But I love that kill. By the way, Whitney said there's something out there so close. Like she just tell us not to go out there, and you've got yourself a little sound bite. But we do get it later from Clay. But the knife through the floor, we've seen that in a lot of horror movies, but I love it every time. I thought it was done well here. Lastly, love this opening, as you can probably gather. Again, you get everything about Jason that I've ever loved. You get the brutality. You even get a really good looking Sackhead homage. You get a running Jason combined with that. It kind of just sets the tone. Like there's nothing funny. There's not a joke. There's nothing jokey about this. Like it's fucking brutal, and I love it.
All right, so yeah, on the opening scene here, I really like the kind of how it pays homage to the origins of the franchise. We get the backstory in a timely manner that they don't spend a whole movie on this, which I know you guys like because you don't like the original Friday the 13th. They go ahead and introduce us to Mrs. Voorhees, introduce us to why she's so pissed off, introduce us to why Jason becomes a killer. They do that in the first couple minutes. So I really like that because it also shows that this film is going to stay true to the origin, but it's also going to have its own take on it, which is refreshing. It's not just going to be regurgitated shit. I also love the fact that we get the return of Sackhead Jason. He doesn't just start out with his hockey mask. He goes through his sack phase before his sack drops and he picks up the hockey stick or hockey mask. It's like you said, it's 25 minutes before we get the title card. You almost get so sucked into it that the title card's like, oh shit, I forgot we haven't seen this title card yet. And so I think that was well done. I enjoyed that. I get what you're saying about the sequel versus reboot. why they did it like that, but from just purely a viewer experience, I think that's really cool because shit gets intense. It picks up a lot, and then it's like, okay, we're going to break it up. We're going to slow it back down. The one thing that I don't like about the opening scene is, right before the title card hits, he swings his machete with full force right at her, and she's unharmed when next time we see her. Spoiler alert, she's not dead. That's kind of confusing. So, and unnecessary as well. But overall, I really like the, like you said, Bryan, the brutality of the sleeping bag death was awesome. I really hate these characters, though, the kids. The one thing this movie is guilty of is the stock college kid character. Like they're lazily written, I guess, I don't know. They're so shallow and predictable that I don't care about any of them.
So basically like real college kids.
I mean, kind of, but not really, man. I still spend a lot of time around college kids. It's just these kids, like, you've got your stereotypical nerd that only cares about his weed. You've got your horny ass kids that just want to have sex all the time. I mean, that part's believable, but the way, I don't know, their demeanor, the way they go about it's just annoying to me. But anyway, great opening scene. It sets the tone. We get introduced to Jason in a hurry. We don't have to wait until the sequel, and he's not a mutilated kid when we first meet him. So that's an upgrade. But yeah,
true.
I liked it.
Something I just thought of that I probably should have noticed before this is these first 5 characters are pretty much the exact same as the 03 Chainsaw characters.
Yeah.
Like, character-wise.
You're right. I didn't notice that either. You're right.
I didn't even put that together till I was listening to Dustin talk. Because, I mean, I kind of agree with him about the stock characters, but these 5 are basically the exact same 5 as the 03 Texas Chainsaw remake.
Yeah, you're right.
All right. 6 weeks later, we meet another crew of young adults, or kids, whatever you want to call them. They stop at a gas station to get fuel and snacks. A man is at the register asking to hang a missing sign on the window of his sister. Trent gets impatient and he starts to argue with him for taking so long. Jenna apologized to him as they load back up in the Escalade. Clay hung up a missing flyer on the back of the truck. A cop pulls Clay over. He reassures Clay that he's on his side and they put the best cops they have on the case and tons of interviews and county-wide searches. No cars or witnesses. He suggests she took off with her boyfriend. Clay says their mother just died of cancer and Whitney took care of her every day, then missed her funeral. That's not her. He says to try somewhere else like the other families. Trent and the crew all arrive to his lake house. Trent bundles up the missing flyer, and they all complain of no cell signal. They all go inside and are in awe of how beautiful the place is. Trent is being a real stick in the mud with everyone. Chewie breaks out Lucy, a device he uses to partake in the marijuanas with. Shout out to Bryan. Clay gets a house and knocks on the marijuanas. Clay gets a house.
The pots.
Yeah. Clay gets to a house and knocks on the door, but is jump scared by a dog barking ferociously. A lady meets him at the door and tells him that his sister ain't missing. She's dead. Outsiders don't know where to walk and they bring trouble. He just wants to be left alone, and she walks away. They play a drinking game at the lake house, and Trenton wants to have sex with Jenna, not go on a hike. He doesn't trust his friends to be alone in the house. Clay keeps riding and stops at a barn. He walks up on a man running a wood chipper, scaring him. He says Clay's lucky the owner didn't shoot him because someone's been stealing his kerosene. He asks him if he's seen Whitney, but he hasn't. He asks Clay if he wants to buy any weed before he leaves, but he refuses. Trent cleans out his truck, and Jenna tells him to relax. Chelsea and Nolan ask him if they want to check out the other end of the lake with him. Nolan does some pelvic thrust behind her to discourage them. Trent lets them borrow the truck to get over there, and he says, "Don't drive my boat." All right, Bryan, that's the next 2 scenes we got. Go ahead, brother.
Look, Pat Leckie does a tremendous job in this. Fun fact, he was actually on hiatus from Supernatural. He had just got done doing House of Wax as well, which we reviewed, and you can find over at don'tgoouthere.com. Another little tidbit, like Sheriff Brack was named for the author of Crystal Lake Memories, and he was not cast until 12 hours before they needed him to film his scenes, which is crazy. Also, Rosemary Noer, the old lady who answers the door when Clay calls. She does tremendous. Obviously, a new spin and kind of a play on Crazy Ralph from the first couple of films. Like, I could have sworn though that she was in Texas Chainsaw '03 too, but apparently not. I guess it's just Nispel like throwing in that whole style that works perfectly in this movie, works perfectly in that movie. But and I don't really have a whole lot else. The only other thing I had is Kyle Davis cracks me up. He has some great lines in there with the whole mummy fart and the stretch, calling him stretch. But spoiler alert, he's actually more than likely coming on the show as soon as we are working out some scheduling details. But like, I think his dialogue, and I'll get into it a little bit more in the next group of scenes, goes way off key. I think off kilter, but right here, I thought it was pretty funny. And by the way, Trent, who the fuck keeps their boat on the other side of the lake? I mean, maybe that's rich people problems. Dustin, I don't know, you can kind of fill us in on wwhere you keep your boat, but to me, it kind of seems way crazy to be on the other side of the lake. But
I keep mine right up your ass, pal. So with this set of scenes, I don't like these stereotypical characters. I like them even less than the ones in the opening scene, just because you've got your cliche douchebag, your overly nice girl, the concerned good guy who's going through something, and then the rest are just throw in stock characters. You got a couple minorities sprinkled in, the others don't give a shit about. There's no depth to any of them. Don't care. Like, the only one you care about is Trent's girl that he's too worried about cheating on. So anyway, it's kind of annoying there, but it is hilarious when Lawrence pulls the race card a couple times. I got some chuckles there with the dialogue when they get to the gas station. It's like, what, you gonna ask the only black guy to pump the gas? And then when they get to the house, he's like, he's got to work on business. He's starting a record label, and she's like, oh, what kind of music? Rap? He goes, what? Because I'm black? And she's, no, I'm sorry. What kind of music is it? And he's like, rap. Like, that shit. I thought that was funny. That was well done. And I truly, and I mean truly, hate Trent. And I know what Mike said. We are supposed to hate him, but it's not. I don't even think it's the character Trent. It's just something about his face, man. Travis Van Winkle. He's got such a punchable face. No offense. And like you mentioned earlier, the one good thing about this movie, though, is that we get Trent, who is, of course, the same character from Transformers. And so this movie is in the same universe as the Transformers movie. So we get my dream mashup. Fuck Freddy versus Jason. I want to see Freddy. I want to see Jason versus Optimus Prime. Sign me all the way up for that sequel. Here for it. Anyway, and then this movie definitely has a Tucker and Dale type feel to it when he gets to the barn and meets Donnie there, who's just, what did he say? Like, you almost turned on a whoop ass machine, and just his dialogue and humor. And then he's like, hey man, you want to buy some pot? It's just like, okay, the wood setting. There's definitely some inspiration drawn from this film for Tucker and Dale, I feel like, because this one came out a year before. But this set of we go 20 minutes between kills, I believe, and you kind of feel it here because I don't care enough about these characters to make it worth it. The only character we really care about is Clay because of how concerned he is, and he's just this nice all around swell guy. And we care about Jenna because she's the only nice girl in this group who's wanting to help him, or seems concerned and shows a little bit of empathy with his problem. But it's this set of scenes just kind of I don't know, man. I want to say it's character development, but we don't get any character development. We just realize that these kids suck.
I think it does develop Clay at least some. Like, he's the main one anyway.
Yeah.
So I think it does kind of give him some. And these guys are just extra fodder, like you said.
I can't like Green Day. All right, they take off in the Escalade, and Clay shows up at the lake house. Jenna asks to see the flyer, and she invites him in for a drink. Bree records Chewie and Lawrence eating and smirks when she sees Clay. Trent is pissed and asks why is he here. Clay and Trent confrontation part 2. Jenna leaves with Clay outside apologizing again. Bree gives Trent a beer. Jenna admires his scooter and offers her company as he checks out the other side of the lake. Back to the barn and the helper starts to smoke some weed. He looks at a dirty magazine creepily. He hears a creaky board and goes to check it out. He bumps into a mannequin and tells us how he lost his virginity to it. In the background, we see Jason appear. He grabs him by the throat and we see Jason's ugly face. Jason slices his throat with a machete, killing him. Jason finds the iconic hockey mask on the floor and puts it on and sees himself in the mirror. Nolan and Chelsea fuel the boat up to take it out on the lake. Jenna and Clay hike and he tells her about Whitney. He says it's been 6 months since they've talked. He finds a broken GPS on the ground. Nolan and Chelsea start to water ski. Back at the house, the others are playing beer pong and Trent won't shoot the boot. I said, can't blame him, that's nasty as hell. Chewie does it like a boss, though. Back to the lake, Chelsea hits a wave and she crashes, and Nolan takes an arrow to the back of the head as he turns back for her. The boat hits her in the head as it passes by. She's extremely dazed and woozy, probably has concussion and all that. And we see Jason on the shore with a bow, and she sees him on the shore now with his machete. She starts to cry and swim to shore. Clay and Jenna make it to Camp Crystal Lake. Jenna explains why she hates camp. Clay says they should check the cabins out. Chelsea emerges from the lake under a dock. She sees Jason above her walking. She thinks she's safe, but machete to the head from above, impaling her head, killing her. Back at Camp Crystal Lake, one last cabin to check out, then they head back. They see the old stuffed animals and how run down the place is. Jenna falls through a board, and Clay says that they should leave. They stop to change his batteries in the flashlight, and they run and hide when they hear footsteps. Jason sees Clay's backpack and drops a decapitated body. He becomes enraged and turns the lights on and flipping over all the canoes they were hiding under, but they manage to run behind a tree to hide. Jason leaves with the body, and they watch where he takes the body, and Jenna says they got to get out of here. All right, Brian, that's the next 2 scenes. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, so Kyle Davis's character, this is kind of what I was talking about, where the writing went a little bit overboard here. With the and yeah, I mean that's the first thing I thought of, so I'm gonna say it, but it's a little bit Rob Zombie dialogue shit. So I was gonna say no offense, Dustin, but it kind of is offensive. So a lot of offense. Sorry about that. But anyway, great fucking neck slash though. I love me a good neck slash, and I love him finding the mask. Little homage to part 3. The way that was done. Clay and Jenna finding the GPS. This is just like a little thing, from the beginning of the movie. But I really liked it because, for obvious reasons, because of the plot. But I liked how it kind of gave you, as an audience member, it gave me anyway, the geography of everything. Like, I don't know about, you guys are probably anybody just about as better than, at geography and locations and directions and shit than I am. But so, it was easy for me to see that and go, oh, okay, like that's where that group was. It's on that side of the lake, and the water skiing scene comes up. So it gave me a nice little point of reference there. So I liked that. The water skiing scene, like I said, is one of my favorite in the whole movie. Like it's kind of one of the like very last little romping. Everything's fun still, before the shit really hits the fan for the group. And and this may be, I think this was the first time that I ever heard the Tick Tick Boom song by the Hives. I thought it was used so damn well here too, because she hits the water right during the tick 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 boom, and she hits the water. I thought it was great. Impressively enough too, Willa Ford actually only had 10 days to learn how to wakeboard for this set of scenes. The arrow on his kill too was CG, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. There's one of, I think, 2 or 3 scenes that are CG, and I couldn't tell. Like I thought it was. Plus, it was super damn quick too. Like, whoa, what the hell? Where did that come from? And I guess, by the way, he only had 1 arrow. I don't know, but good. I'm glad he did, because Willa being stabbed under that dock and then pulled right back up before she fell back down, like, oh shit, into the water. I thought that was fucking great. That may be my second favorite kill right there. Just tremendous, or stupendous. I guess that would be on brand again. And lastly, I'll say that there's a little bit of discrepancy, like with time, to me, like with Clay and Jenna, like how they're exploring the camp. which I know it's more realistic, but did I miss? I did. I didn't say did I. I missed the original Camp Crystal Lake sign like design, like the yellow one. Like I wish we would have gotten that some sort of little cameo here by that at some point. But anyway, I felt like that it went from daylight to dark really quick. And I know by Clay saying like, let's look in that last one and go, it kind of gives this whole passage of time and explains it a little bit. But I don't know. And by seeing it be and by it being dark, it adds like so much more tension. So it just kind of felt a little bit off to me and like a little bit quick. I was like, oh shit, it's already dark. But Jason walking through that woods, carrying that body with them under that canoe, I thought was another just fantastic damn cinematic shot.
Yeah, I can get on board with that. I want to go ahead and touch on something you just said. A couple things I missed from this. I wish we would have had the more of the yellow sign throwback, and also we're missing the signature Jason sound. That really was missing in this. I get it; it's a reboot. You don't want to just regurgitate so many of the same ideas, but that's kind of a trademark. But anyway,
yeah, I think the only time you even get it was like in the title sequence. I don't think you get it. If so, you're right. It's not. I didn't even notice that, but you're right.
Yeah, I rewatched it this evening, and I didn't notice it until it was probably around this time. But I got to thinking, I was like, man, I don't think I've heard it once. So then I actually paid attention to it. We don't get it the rest of the way, and drop the ball there. But yeah, I wrote down in my notes, what the fuck is with him and this mannequin? And so to go back to the start of this set of scenes, why? We don't need that. Donnie's an entertaining character. Like he's funny, but to me, he doesn't fit with the rest of the tone of this movie. Because he's a little bit too over the top, a little too outrageous. But we do need him because this guy's got this junk shed out here, and that's where we get the awesome scene of how he finds the hockey mask. His sack's ripped off. And it's not as painful as that sounds. But looking at his mauled face was pretty painful. And then he goes to put it back on. Oh wait, what's that? It's a goalie mask. I like how he found that. And then we get the creepy ass stare where he puts it on and looks in the mirror, and then the score is perfect right there.
Right.
Just that ominous, creepy music in the background with him looking in the mirror. That's one of the best things this movie does. Was that right there? The skiing scene. I like this incarnation of Jason. I like how he's not so limited in his abilities and his movements. I like that he can use a bow and arrow. But like you said, why do you only have one arrow? That was a hell of a shot because that boat was hauling ass through the water, and God knows how far off the bank there, and he just nailed him right through the back of the head. And like you mentioned, that was a CGI effect, and it looked awesome for what it was. I mean, That was incredible. And then, I ain't gonna lie, gotta feel like an asshole about it, but I laugh every time I see her get hit in the head with a boat. I don't know why that's so funny to me, but every time, because she's like, "Oh, what are you doing, silly?" And then concussion.
She doesn't even try to move out of the way either. That kind of bothers me.
No, I know. And it's because as the boat's hauling ass towards you, you wouldn't be able to get out of the way. But if I see a boat coming that fast towards me, I'm going to realize I need to start moving now if I'm going to get out of the way, because he's not going to be able to stop. It's not like he has a road underneath him. You can't just stop on a dime in water.
Well, maybe she thought, I don't know, in her defense, maybe she thought, he's just going to be real funny and pull away at the last second.
Yeah.
And then bam, bam, concussion.
Yeah, that's just irresponsible boating. Mrs. Puff would definitely revoke their license.
Jeez.
Oh, yeah, sorry, SpongeBob reference. And then, okay, so I'm torn here. I know I don't mind nudity. I've never been one to be like, that's too much nudity, like Nico does with some Rob Zombie movies. But I'm never going to be one like
Mike. I thought there was too much nudity. Sorry to interrupt you, but
Okay.
I do think
No,
there
you're
is a little
good,
too
brother.
much nudity.
Yeah, and I'm not going to be one like Mike, just be like, God, give me some more nudity. But her kill here, it's awesome how he stabs through he shoves his machete through the deck there, or through the dock, and pulls her head up. But I don't like how long she pauses before she falls back in the water. Because if he stabs his machete through her head and then pulls it up, as he's pulling, he's not going to just hold it there. Like, he's going to just pull it on up. So I think that's one scene where we got about 20 seconds of bare breast when we probably realistically only needed about 2 seconds. We just saw him while she was on the water. It's not like we were hurting to see him. Anyway, sorry, that's a side tangent. Last thing here, I another thing that I think they got right was this incarnation of Jason, how more agile he is. He's not moving like a 78 Michael Myers. He's not just creeping. This guy's running.
Right.
And I like how territorial he is when he gets back and realize, he finds the bag and realizes someone's here. He starts flipping shit, turns on the lights, starts throwing the boats everywhere, trying to find them. I like this Jason a lot. And so this set of scenes does a really good job. If we get some kills, we get back on track in that regard. And then the tension is it's at a high, because we're like, okay, this ain't your mama's Jason. You're going to have to really hustle to get out of his way. So I think it does a good job of setting the tone.
Right. I agree.
All right, the Clay and Jenna run, and she triggers a tripwire attached to bells under the ground. Clay pulls it again, and we see Whitney still alive, held hostage. Whitney cries out for help. Jason descends with the body and tosses the backpack to the ground. She watches on as Jason sharpens his machete. He has a flashback to his mother's death. He gets up in a rage, throwing items around. He grabs Whitney as she screams, and she says, "Please don't hurt me," and he sees the locket. She says, "It's okay, Jason," and he storms away. She grabs the backpack and finds missing flyers of her and knows Clay is looking for her. She gets the broken GPS device and gets something out the back of it to try and pick the lock. Clay and Jenna run through the woods, but Jason is in pursuit. Whitney gets the lock picked and goes to run away. And this is in the killer cut, Bryan. She makes it to a room full of dead bodies. She makes it out of the tunnels and runs through the woods. Chewie and Lawrence watch on as Bree dances. Chewie approaches and burns his lip on. I don't know what kind of shot this is, but it was a flaming shot is what I wrote. He falls over, breaking Trent's chair. Trent is pissed off, but Chewie says he can fix it. Chewie goes to the shed to get tools to fix it. Bree pulls Trent to the bedroom. Sorry about that. Chewie makes it to the shed, and I wrote, instead of just getting tools, he has to explore everything in there.
Right.
Bree pushes him on the bed and gets naked. Lawrence smokes some of the marijuana, shout out to Bryan, and looks through a catalog for some inspiration.
Jesus.
He pauses when he feels like the deer is watching him. Jenna and Clay run inside. They say there's a guy carrying a dead body. Clay calls the police and Jenna asks where's everyone. Jenna bangs on Trent's door and they ignore her while they continue to have sex. We see from a POV shot someone approach the house. It's Jason as he looks inside on Trent and Jenna. Back to the shed, Chewie is hooping, instead of getting tools and finds a hockey stick. Now he breaks a light fixture with the hockey stick instead of getting tools. He stands up and Jason is behind him. He jokes about the hockey stick completing the outfit. Jason pushes him into the wall repeatedly. He goes to stab Jason with a screwdriver, but Jason rams the screwdriver back into Chewie's neck, killing him as he spits up blood everywhere, and he drops his body to the floor. All right, Bryan, that's the next two scenes I got. Go ahead, brother.
Okay, so now we're kind of getting into parts of the movie that I know is super divisive, and I wish Mike had not dropped off the call here because I would love to hear his take on this. But even right here among us, I kind of think that this part's a little bit divisive. But I'll say that my opinion is I love the tunnels, I love the trip wires, and I even love I even love him taking Whitney prisoner because I love how just grounded in reality this is. I mean. They even put him, teleporting on the video game as a power for Jason because it's just always been some crazy staple for him to just pop up places. But I really like how, and I usually don't in movies, but I really liked it in this, like giving it a grounded in reality, like explanation as to why he's able to just pop up everywhere with the tunnels. I love it so much. And the prisoner thing, I mean, I'm perfectly fine with it because I mean, shit, it's canon, and I know I've said this before in our ranking show. I mean, but with him being like so persuaded or even just distracted by like anything regarding his mother, I mean, Jenny wears the sweater in part 2 to distract him. Tommy shaves his head in 4 to distract him. About childhood. I mean, it's not a reach to me to say that Jason would keep some girl that reminds him of his mother. I mean, now you can ask, how does she eat? How is she still in such great physical condition after what was like 6 weeks later? But hell, how does he eat? I don't know. Some stuff I don't need to know, which I know that's how some people feel about the tunnels. But I love it. Plus, Amanda Rigetti, I think, does such an unbelievable job of just selling how scared, terrified she is as she's like screams every time she hears everything, the bells. I think she does a tremendous job. Back to the soundtrack again. I like it. I love it. By Lyrics Born. After this movie, that was actually, fun fact, that was my ringtone back in the day for like years. Like, that was a long ass time because I love that song that I was introduced to in this movie. I think I was even pulling out the old Shazam back in the day in the middle of the theater because I wanted to find out what song that was. But yeah, like we get the stupendous tits and perfect nipple placement lines that we've kind of been talking about the whole time. And yeah, it's a little cringe, but it just further plays into whole Trent's douchebaggery, which Travis Van Winkle I think does so damn well. I think he does a great job playing him. Chewie has some great lines too, but some of his shit goes a little too far. I think for him to just like be talking to himself. Even the it even curves left like my penis line. I had that line had me dying laughing. But that's because my sense of humor is like 12 years old. But lastly, Chewie, I think had a great death as well. But I think what ruins it for me is like I notice how the screwdriver insertion, it goes in his neck in different places, like from scene to scene. It's dead center when it first shows it, and then it moves more to the right side on the next shot. So that bothers me and kind of takes away from that kill. But otherwise, another great group of scenes for me.
Yeah, so I too wrote down that I like the tunnels and trap wires because it really goes to explain the previous incarnations of Jason's ability to just transport and the trip wires with the bells in the hostage situation. I like that because it pays homage to, like you said, in the second film, him being distracted with Alice. And so it just makes sense that he would be enamored by her and want to keep her because it reminds him of Mommy Dearest. Now, when we get to Chewie in the house with Chewie and Lawrence are talking, he's like, there's no way I'd be able to have sex with her, and lights the shot on fire. The dialogue is just so stupid. I hate when he gets up and goes over to him and says, let's be cliche. Yeah, you really are. You're being cliche of every bad movie character ever. So I didn't like that, and him falling over the chair I was like, thank God. I hope it really hurt him. This guy sucks. And it's not his fault. It's just the way he was written because Chewie and Lawrence were the only kids that I cared about other than Jenna. And you need an excuse for him to get killed in the shed. So I like that. That's fine. Then, like you mentioned, the dialogue there, man, we get your tits are stupendous. Your tits are just so juicy, dude. And you have perfect nipple placement, baby. Now, ladies, if that doesn't do it for you, I don't know what will, because that is some of the smoothest talking you'll ever hear. And I do love how Jenna, when they get back to the house, Jenna's banging on the door while Trent's in there banging on Bree. And I love how she knows that that's what he's in there doing, right? There's a pillow on the door's locked, and they told him that they're in there together. But then when Trent and Bree come out, I love how he turned it on her. God, that's such a douchebag guy thing to do. He's like, oh, you been out running around with this guy for 8 hours having sex? Like, That part cracked me up. So that was the funniest thing that Trent did. But yeah, in the tool shed with Chewie. I thought that scene was tense as it needed to be, and we get another tense situation in the tool shed later that we'll get into. But I love how something bad's got to happen, right? You're like, it's coming. Oh God, it's coming. Oh, there he is. And I thought that was really well done. I really enjoyed this set of scenes outside of the douchey teen dialogue that we get.
Well, I hate to side with Trent because he is just a horrible character, but if your girlfriend leaves for as long as she did with another guy, I mean, you do what you want to do, but I don't blame her for being pissed about that.
No, brother, I don't think that you're going to have too many people siding with you from our female listeners on that. She went off to help him after her boyfriend was threatening to beat his ass, and she was genuinely concerned because this guy's lost a sister. That doesn't give him a free pass to bang Bree.
Yeah, but I wouldn't want my girlfriend hanging out with just some random guy all day either. I mean, I'm not saying Trent's right for, cheating, but I don't blame him for being upset.
You wildin' fan.
And we got Dustin Future over here siding with the good guys. Wow, never thought I'd see the day. All right, we see Whitney running now, and she makes it to the bedroom window of Trent's room, and she goes to scream, but she's grabbed by Jason before she can. The lights in the house go out now, and all the phones are dead. Trent is pissed Clay is back and is pissed at Jenna. They tell Trent of the killer, and Chelsea and Nolan are still not back. Lawrence goes to find Chewie. He calls for him as he makes it to the shed. He sees all the broken glass and he sees blood. He opens the freezer but only finds food. Chewie's body falls from the roof, hitting him. Then Jason appears. He fights Jason off and runs away. He runs back to the house and Jason grabs an axe and hurls it at Lawrence, hitting him right in the back. Back in the house, they hear Lawrence crying out, "Help me, help me." Jason is using him as bait, which I do like that. I do like the fact he uses people as bait. And then panic sets in. Jason gets to Lawrence and pushes his body into the ground, pushing the axe all the way through his body. Trent looks out the window, and Jason, I kind of nitpick this, but I think he kind of teleports on the roof now because he got there fast as hell. Trent runs upstairs to find their gun, and Bree follows him upstairs. We see an open window, and Jason appears behind her, grabbing her, holding her mouth closed. He kills her by ramming her body into some antlers on the wall, Billy from Silent Night, Deadly Night style. Jason looks out the window and sees the cops pulling up. The officer knocks at the door, and Jason descends behind him, impaling I think it's a fence post or something like that, through his eye. Trent is terrible with with a gun, shooting at nothing in the house. He finds Bree's dead body, showing little remorse. They make it outside and try to take off in the cop car, and Clay is missing his scooter keys. Jason throws Bree's body on the cop car, and they all take off running. And we see a hot tub full of blood with Lawrence's body floating in it. Run through the woods, and Trent falls, losing the gun in a puddle. He makes it to the road, and a flatbed truck stops. He waves him to approach, but Jason appears behind Trent. He stabs a machete through his body, and then impales Trent onto a spike on the truck, and he watches them drive away. Clay and Jenna find Chelsea's dead body by the lake. They go back into the old cabin, and they hear a scream from below. They find the hidden door, and they drop down, and they find Whitney back in her shackles. Big hug, but short-lived. They have to get her free. Clay uses the axe to break her chains. Then Jason drops back down. The chains are broken, and they take off into the tunnels. Jason pursues them, and Clay finds a way out. Jenna gets a machete through the chest, killing her as she tries to escape. And the next two scenes are ending. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, and I totally get what you're saying about him jumping on the roof or being on the roof suddenly. And in a movie that's so grounded in reality, I almost wrote that down. I was like, well, I know he runs fast, but I would have liked to have seen his ass like parkour up that fucking house and jump up there like real fast. I think that would have been cool to see. It would at least add a little bit of even a scarier element too. But here we go. In this separate set of scenes, we get Clay giving us a shout out, telling Lawrence, "Don't go out there." We appreciate the shout out, Mr. Padalecki. And actually, I believe that's only our second find of the show's title in any of the movies that we've reviewed so far, which is surprising, as many of we've done. I'm I'm a big fan of that axe throw into Lawrence, but I do remember that they used that a lot for the advertising for that movie, so that kind of took it away a little bit whenever I saw it, like the surprise factor of it. I would admit there, but I thought it looked good. Um, and now we kind of get into my least favorite part of this movie, and I don't know what it is. Like I can't put my finger on it. I don't know if it's just that I'm kind of ready to get into that final act a little bit more, or like I don't know, maybe the stalking scenes inside the cabin here, like or just too part four esque. I don't know. They just don't really do a whole lot for me. And I don't know if it's just the okay, we don't need sneaking around anymore. We got the big reveal. It's time for like an onslaught. I don't know. But Bree on the antlers too. That's my least favorite kill. I think she died too quickly. I don't know. Maybe give her a neck snap a little bit first. I don't know. Just something about it. Little trivia though, she was in Captain America: Civil War, actually as Stark's assistant most recently. Um, Also, the sheriff's kill I thought was badass cinematography. I thought it was awesome how sliding from like each side of the door as he's killed. I thought that was a great shot. I love them making Trent think that he's the one that killed Bree, and he's just his it was just like, oh yeah, yeah, Bree's dead too. They got Bree too, but when he notices that he had shot her 4 or 5 times, and his death was tremendous too. The stab, okay, but throwing him on that truck, I thought was outstanding. Um, and I don't know the answer to this, so I'm asking you guys: was that guy who stopped Uncle Monty from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Terrence Evans, from the 2 remakes? I couldn't find anything to say yes or no because he's not credited for that, but it sure as shit looked like him if it wasn't. Um, and I get that you can't have. I mean, I guess you could. You can have 2 heroines. I mean, honestly, why the hell not? You could have both of those 2 live, but when we wrap this thing up with some great shots, I think through the tunnels, and then Jenna dies. Which I mean, I thought was a great shot. It was shocking because I didn't expect it. You think that? So I thought that she was going to be, the survivor with all the character development that they gave her. So I respect the fact that they killed her. I hated to see her go. But it was, again, it was up and down group of scenes for me. There was definitely some parts I think I was ready to move on from.
Yeah. So this set of scenes, I really love Lawrence going to help out Chewie. He's like, I'm not gonna leave my bro out there, and he goes down trying to be the hero. And then we get a good bit of tension in that shed. This is what I was talking about. He goes down there, and I really love the false climax that they when he goes to open the cooler or the freezer, and the music's building, and he opens it, and there's nothing there, and then his body falls down. I like how that was done. That's a nice little swerve. And then Lawrence puts up a pretty good fight. You expect him to die because that's the thing that horror movies are. It's one of the stereotypes is that the black character is going to die. He wasn't the first, but to die in the film, but black character is going to die. But he almost makes it. He puts up a hell of a fight. And then even when he's got the axe in his back, he's not dead yet. You think maybe they'll be able to come out and save him, and that's what Jason would have wanted. So I like that as well. I wrote that down. I love how he was kind of baiting them into coming out.
Yeah, I thought that was awesome too.
We get a real breath of relief when the cop shows up. You think, okay, thank God he's gonna at least put up a fight so some of these kids can survive. And boy, was that short lived. He gets a fire poker through the eyeball. I love how that was shot as well, Brian. I wrote that how the camera pans from the outside through the wall to the inside, so you get the full scope of what everyone saw and experienced. Right. I thought that was awesome. And then fast forward, Trent gets the gun. He's the last person you need to have the gun because I truly feel like he would have sacrificed someone if it came down to it. But he's got it and he loses it like a jackass. Why would you give up so quickly on finding that gun? The gun is there, like where you fell. He just kind of looks in the water a little bit and then very loudly proclaims, "Fuck it," as he runs off. If you're trying to hide from someone in the woods, maybe don't yell, "Fuck it." Keep that thought internal. That's okay. But he searches for the gun a little bit, doesn't find it, runs, almost gets run over by the truck, and then, like a jackass, he waited way too long to approach that truck. I get being scared. I get it. You don't know who's in the truck. But maybe call out, maybe walk up a little faster, see it to where you can get a glimpse. And worst case scenario, it's him. You can run away from him. But when you just stand there, you let Jason, the real Jason, sneak up from behind you. And I agree, it was a really cool kill. He stabs him in the back. He pulls his machete all the way through his body and then tosses him on the hay bale. Phenomenal. I thought it was hilarious just watching his stupid dead body ride off on the back of that truck. And then, we get the heartwarming moment. We get the family reunion. All of this has not been for naught. He finds his sister, and we think, all right, he's going to go off with his sister and his new girlfriend and live happily ever. Oh no, she did. When Jenna died, when she got that through the back, it was shocking for a moment, but that moment passed pretty quickly, in my opinion, because you kind of realized, oh yeah, come on, it's Friday the 13th. There can't be this many survivors. And so I got over it very quickly, but it was shocking in the moment seeing that happen. But I really like how we're shaping up for the finale here.
Oh yeah, and I like the ending too, except one part. Jason is after them now as Clay sets the tunnels on fire. They find a way out that leads into an old abandoned bus. Clay gets the bus door open and Jason grabs him on top of it. The two fight, but Jason goes after Whitney in the bus now before finishing off Clay. He pulls out his machete and walks to the end. Whitney appears, kicking him, knocking him down the hole, but he grabs her. She kicks his face and Jason goes back into the tunnel. It starts to rain and Clay and Whitney make it to the barn. Clay backs to a wall and Jason jumps through, grabbing him. Jason manhandles him, then Clay tackles him into the wall. The wood chipper turns on and Jason tries to push his face into the wood chipper. Whitney calls out Jason's name and holds out the locket. He throws Clay's body to the ground as she says, "It's okay, you can stop." Clay hits him in the back now with a bear trap and wraps a chain around his neck, and they throw the other end of the chain into the wood chipper. He tries to fight it, but Whitney stabs the machete into his chest and says, say hi to mommy in hell," as his head is chipped up now. Whitney and Clay hug victoriously. The sun is up now, and we see shots through Trent's shed, the barn, and into Jason's old room. We're on a dock now with Clay and Whitney, and we see Clay push Jason's body into the lake, and his mask falls to the bottom. Whitney drops the locket into the lake. Cool shot of the mask on the bottom. Clay walks to Whitney, then Jason jumps through the dock, grabbing her from behind, and the film ends. All right, Brian, that's the ending, brother. What'd you think?
It's kind of a mixture. I love there's a lot of tension on the bus to kind of start out this group of scenes with, and then we wrap it up in the barn, which is an homage, I'm sure, to 3, or like a mixture of 2 and 3 with the mom angle again. But a lot of these endings I think fall short when you have like the final person, whether it be guy, girl, whatever, overpower a killer that has just been so damn relentless and shown to be like powerful and just strong as hell. And I'm glad they didn't really do that as much here. Now, they did a touch with the fight with Clay, but it also humanized him a little bit in a weird way that I kind of liked. While I love Zombie Jason, I do, but I mean, fuck, he's almost unstoppable. I mean, and so I liked that they kind of gave him a little bit of a humanization to him. Like, he's vulnerable. At least he is a little bit. I didn't need the whole say hi to mommy zinger too. Like I don't like that. So, and honestly, I expected them to tear the hockey mask up and have a, show the gratuitous face shot that they always show. So I'm glad that they didn't do that. Now this last scene with them on the dock, it's been talked about, discussed a lot. Is it a dream? Is it not? Kind of the same way that they talk about the whole Alice scene at the very end of 1. Is it a dream? Is it not? When he jumps up and pulls him down. That was supposed to really be put to bed, explored really in the next one, which I know I've bitched about a lot, but I really wanted to see that movie. It gave us what happened to Whitney, which was this whole sequence a dream? Was it not? Spoiler alert, it wasn't. the first part of the script that I actually read for the next one that they released online after they pretty much, killed it. The opening scene was on the ice of Crystal Lake in the winter, and her body actually is what they find kind of coming to the top of the ice there. But as for this one, we don't know that yet. So this is still kind of left out there as it could be a dream sequence with him busting through. Could it not? I mean, I guess we'll never find out now. So fuck you, Cunningham and Victor Miller. But I really did like the ending of this movie in general. Would I've maybe, I would I've liked maybe a little bit of a better ending or a little bit different ending. I wouldn't say better, maybe, but I really like the way that they ended this one.
Yeah, man, you said something there. I agree. I really wanted to see that sequel too. I mean, to see Sam Witwicky and Michaela Baines just pull up in Bumblebee up to Kent Crystal Lake and whoop ass, that would have been awesome. But
thanks to everybody who stuck around for an hour and 20 minutes, but just left because of Transformers.
You got to put some respect on Transformers, first of all.
Oh, man.
Spoken like a true Decepticon. Now, I do have some issues with this ending, but they're really nitpicks because I think it's well done. I like the bus setup. I like how they found the tunnel and they get out and they're in a fucking school bus turned over in the woods. I think that's pretty cool. But why did Jason not kill Clay? Like, he's beating his head up against the windows on the top/side of this overturned bus. Why did he kill him? That's not his MO. He doesn't leave people to, fight another day. And then he gets back in the bus and, she's hiding from him. And that's all it takes is just a couple kicks in the face. And she kicks him down the hole. That was kind of weak as well. So that's the nitpick I have, is just kind of how I get what you're saying. It's not like zombie Jason where he's superhuman strength and nothing can get away from him. But at the same time, I don't know. It's
I was torn on that a little bit. Like, I wanted him humanized a little bit, but it was almost like, okay, too much. Like,
yeah, exactly. Now the kill of Jason I thought was great. It was brutal as shit. We got a bear trap. We got him being hanged by a chain, and we got a wood chipper to the dome. That's awesome. Like, okay, sign me up. And I love the actual ending here, how it really pays homage, like you said, to the first one. Is it a dream? Is it not? He pops up out of the water. His head's not all chopped up. So what's really going on here? Sure. But, because we saw his chunks of his skull being flung into the frame there when the camera's on the end of that wood chipper. But that's okay. I liked it. It's a really nice open-ended ending to this movie. It leaves you wanting more. It leaves you wondering what the hell happened. And it really, with the runtime being an hour 37 minutes, it was perfect. You didn't feel like it drug on too long, because they could have dragged this final scene out even longer if they wanted to. But I thought it was a nicely put together conclusion.
The way the Friday the 13th movie is supposed to be. It's supposed to be open-ended like that. So
exactly.
Y'all got any more final thoughts before we jump into a few fan questions?
No, I don't think so.
Let's do it.
All right. The first question we got, we're just going to ask a fun one. Settle this once and for all. Is Jenna Trent's girlfriend? Weird dynamic there. That's something that Joe Swinford asked, a super fan of the show. Bryan, what's your thoughts, brother?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that is definitely supposed to be. But I mean, I think that they are new relationship wise. I don't think that they're, old school dating. I think that they maybe just started dating because they don't really, I don't know, they don't have that chemistry yet that you would have with somebody that you've dated for a while. Plus, he jumped off that bandwagon pretty quick. So if I had to guess, I would say that he just kind of wanted to date her to try to get some, and she actually really wanted to try to explore it, and very quickly saw how he was. So that's kind of the way I took their relationship.
Well, the way that I view it is, I view it a lot like my own personal relationships. I'll sum it up like this: basically, she's dating him and he's single.
God. There you go.
All right, here's a good question we got from Scott C 2410. on Instagram. Do you like the long opening before the movie title drops, and do you think it was effective? 2 words. Hell yes. It was amazing.
Yeah,
Same,
absolutely.
same.
All right, one of the next question we got is we're going to ask Michelle's question next. She wrote on Facebook, I love this franchise and I love this reboot. Jason is the man. That being said, this is another fun one. In a fight between Part 6 zombie Jason and this version, who do you guys think would win? CJ Graham's taking him. I'm sorry.
Well,
What y'all think?
I don't think it has. I don't think it has anything to do with the actor. Like, but you're talking about a zombie, undead Jason versus basically a human, and so that's why I hate every time that I see who would win between Michael Myers and Jason. Well, you're talking about a zombie like undead creature versus like a human. So I mean, I'm going to go with the zombie undead creature.
Yeah, so I mean, the way that I see it, we got one of these characters ripped a man's heart out through his chest, or just punched straight through his chest, rather, and the other let a girl kick him in the face to get away. So I don't. It's no contest.
Yeah, one's human, one's not, and so I mean.
All right, Shan asked a really good question on Facebook. This is the last one. Why do you think the movie got such hate when it was released? Also, do you think people are more appreciative of the film now, or is the hate still there? I'll answer this real quick. Why do I think the movie got such hate? Because this is a good thing and a bad thing. Horror fans are the most dedicated fans out there. If you're a diehard Friday fan, and there's some things in this movie you just aren't going to like if you lean one way. And I'll say, I honestly don't know if the hate's still there or not. I mean, on Twitter, just from comments that I see, I think a lot of people like this movie. I know all 4 of us like this movie, so I don't know. But horror fans are just, they're very set in their ways, and they like what they like, and they don't like what they don't like. Bryan, what do you think, brother?
Yeah, and we have a pretty diverse group of 4 that, if there was I think we're do a good job at pretty much hitting, if it's a hated movie for the most part, then at least one of us will hate it. And like I said, I don't think any of us do. What I think is the biggest issue with it was it kind of suffered from the remake craze, I think, of the early 2000s. And I think people were tired of seeing remakes. People, like you said, are big fans of these franchises, whether it be Friday the 13th or Halloween or Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And it was just like one remake after another. Platinum Dunes was pumping out, and Nightmare on Elm Street was so terrible. And then, this one's actually really good. I just think that people were like, oh my God, another fucking remake. Like, do something original. We're tired of seeing the same shit. But it's not. When you back up and look at this one, it's not like the other ones. It's not remake. It's basically, you're rebooted like 2018 Halloween. I think it was a little bit before its time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think that at the time, people were just frustrated, wanting something new, and I think it holds up better than a lot of movies do after 12 years now.
Yeah.
So I think that's the reason. I think it's aging like wine. It becomes better the more I watch it. I enjoy it more the more I watch it, I guess. And so I think it was unwarranted hate in the beginning. And who asked this question, Shan?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, it was unwarranted hate. And Shan, if you hate it, then it's unwarranted. And I apologize.
Whatever you think, Shan, we agree with you.
All right, let's go ahead and knock out some fun facts real quick. I'll just go first and knock mine out. Y'all said quite a few of them, but I know with how much we love, this franchise, we'd have a lot. Including the 2009 remake, Jason has killed around 200 people throughout the Friday the 13th series. Adrian King, star of the original 1980 film, was approached by producers Andrew Form and Brad Fuller to do a cameo appearance during pre-production. A few days later, the producers called her back and told her they didn't want anyone from the original film to appear in the remake. Hate to see it. That would have been a nice cameo. Bryan touched on this earlier. Go ahead.
But
go
you
ahead.
know what? Her being in it would be perfect because you could say that it was like Halloween 2018 and you could slot it right after the first one. But I think that had 100% to do with the whole Victor Miller stuff.
Yeah.
I think they didn't want ties to that first one because they didn't want to have to give him
pay
the
him
rights to
money.
it, basically. Right.
Yeah. And y'all touched on this earlier. Producer Michael Bay walked out in the movie premiere stating that the movie featured too much sex. I kind of agree with him. A follow-up to 2009's Friday the 13th was slated for release on October 13th, 2017, and was all set to go into production in a matter of weeks. But in February 2017, it was announced that Paramount had pulled the plug on the project to move forward with Darren Aronofsky's horror film Mother with an exclamation point. Clay and Whitney's last name is Miller. This is a reference to Victor Miller, the creator of the Friday the 13th series. And I got one last one. Ben Feldman, Richie, and Jonathan Sadowski Wade. They were already good friends, and they had, good rapport already. And they also convinced their friend Aaron Yu, Chewy, to accept the role, even though he was reluctant. And that's the last one I got. Go ahead.
I only had two that I really, kind of really wanted to say. The first one was that, let me find it. That Derek Mears was actually almost not given the role because when they met him, he was too nice. And that kind of just goes straight into what we were talking about earlier, just how fucking just nice his ass was when we met him in at Days of the Dead in Atlanta, which Nico can vouch for. And the last thing I had was, we kind of talked about the CGI weapons for various death scenes. We talked about the Jason arrow, obviously already, that was, done in post-production. But another scene involved Jason hurling a hatchet at Lawrence as he ran away. I almost said that and I wasn't sure, and that's what's great. Like, you couldn't even tell that was CG. Still a fantastic job that holds up, 12 years later. But the shot of it flying through the air, and in one instance appearing in the same frame as the actor would be too difficult to achieve practically, which obviously that makes sense. And one of the final images that Asylum added was during Trent's death scene. They digitally created a metal spike that burst through Trent's chest as Jason slams him onto the back of the tow truck. Again, that's how CGI is supposed to be done. Where you can't tell that it's CGI, that it's just, kind of sporadically put in there to make things better and make things easier. And I think they did a great job.
Hey, before you go, Dustin, there was one more CGI kill I saw in the making of, and that was Richie's kill with the machete. But how good did that look? You couldn't even tell.
Oh no, I didn't even know that
because
either. So that's fantastic.
They just had like they had like a piece of a bottom of the machete go up to his chin, and the rest of it was CGI, and then it just showed Derek Mears kicking his head off of it. So that was incredible CGI. You're absolutely right. But go ahead, Dustin. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're good, brother. So I just got a couple here. Beloved horror legend Scout Taylor Compton actually auditioned for the role of Jenna, which eventually went to Daniel Panamaker. And then last thing I got, I'll fill in for Mike here. This movie had a budget of $19 million estimated. The opening weekend, fun fact, did $42.2 million, which is the biggest opening weekend of a horror remake, beating out the former record holder, The Grudge, 2004's The Grudge, which did $39.1 million. So with that huge opening weekend, it also went on to gross $91,509,154 worldwide. So they definitely made their money back on this one.
Fantastic. Friend of the show, Danielle Panamaker, by the way, who I didn't mention earlier, did the opening for this episode. So thank you, Daniel.
Absolutely. All right, guys, let's jump into our favorite kill, least favorite kill, and the rating. Who wants to go first tonight, or do you want me to kick it off?
Go ahead, man.
I'll just go first. I'll let Dustin go next, or Brian, whoever wants to go. My favorite kill, I'm torn between Trent and Richie, but I'm going to go with Trent just because he's such a douche and deserved a brutal death. Least favorite kill, I wrote Bree. I agree with you, Brian. Sorry, Jason, but leave the antler impalements to Billy from Silent Night, Deadly Night. I agree. She should have got a little. I mean, considering everybody else got destroyed, she should have got a little more. All right, so just let me get through this because my rating is still high, but I am going to air out my qualms since I don't do my thoughts throughout the scene by scene. I'm part of the group that doesn't like the tunnels, the booby traps, and keeping Whitney hostage for however long. I don't buy it, and I don't buy that there should be electricity. I don't think him stealing kerosene from the farmer to keep the lights on is plausible. I don't buy that. Not a fan of the sleeping bag jigsaw light kill either, and I hated the ending with Clay and Whitney moving Jason's body like idiots. Like, what are you doing? Derek Mears is an extremely nice guy and did great as Jason Voorhees, but I'm not a huge fan of this woodsman style character. It just makes me see him as one of the cannibals from like Wrong Turn with the bow and arrow and the traps in the woods. Jason's kill is also Wrong 2-esque with the wood chipper kill. However, I think as a reboot to this franchise after a 6-year hiatus after Freddy vs. Jason, this is an action-packed slasher that holds your attention throughout. I don't think any of this movie is boring, honestly, or slow. The opening 25 minutes is absolutely terrifying and would be a damn elite short film if you had just that. As a super fan of the Friday the 13th franchise, I'm extra critical, but it's out of love. I give the movie an 8.25, and I hope the rights BS ends and we get more Jason Voorhees soon. This movie isn't just another Friday the 13th. It's very sentimental to me and this podcast. It brought Bryan onto this show, and without him, we wouldn't be here right now. So thank goodness for this movie. And that's my thoughts.
All right. So I'll go next. My favorite kill, I went with Officer Brack. I thought the fire poker through the eye and just the way it was shot with the camera panning from outdoor to indoor, that was awesome. So I just really enjoyed how that was shot. My least favorite kill was, I can think his name was Mike at the beginning, just because it was off screen. He got stabbed up through the cabin floor, which was awesome, but he just kind of got drugged under the floor, and we don't really know what happened to him. So off-screen deaths are always going to get a bum for me. As far as this movie goes, like I said, I loved it. As far as a reboot goes, it didn't stray away from what made Friday the 13th so special and endeared it to our hearts. But it also put a new twist on a lot of elements that made it appealing and didn't just feel like we talked about earlier, didn't just feel like regurgitated crap. It's like you said, Nico, it's not slow at all. Keeps your attention. The runtime being an hour 37 minutes is great. The acting is passable. The dialogue is the only downfall, and the character depth is frustrating at times, but that's okay. As far as my rating, I went with 8.5. Which y'all know is damn near a 10 for me.
Absolutely.
I've also got Mike's notes here, so I'm going to go ahead and read those. So in my Mike voice, as I mentioned at the top of the show, this is my favorite film of the franchise, and I don't think it's close. The dark take on a normally over-the-top character was a breath of fresh air. Most of the kills are fantastic. They're brutal and not just quick enders like majority of the franchise. The cinematography is great. The opening scene is so damn good, and the chat doesn't bother me at all. I wish the movie got a sequel, and I'm glad I picked it. I wish I had gotten to discuss it in depth. Fuck you, technology. Fuck you. You are the opposite of stupendous. Perfect nipple placement, baby. All right.
Man, I felt you were about to tell me to call you sometime. That was good. That was good.
So that was his overall thoughts on the. I'll go ahead and give his favorite kill was Amanda. The sleeping bag kill was just so brutal. He loved it. Least favorite was Jenna. Why are we killing Jenna? SMH. Hey, Jenna, call me sometime.
Oh, there we go.
I added that for him, but I know that he would want me to do it. So
no doubt.
And then for a rating, he gave this one a 9.
Okay. Well, mine is my 7 or 8 episode streak of 8s or above. I think is supposed to come to an end this week. I don't know yet what I think I'm going to rate the next one, but I don't think it's going to be an 8 or above. But I told you last week, spoiler alert, this one's definitely going to be there. Kind of already gone into my thoughts. This movie I loved and would already rank it high, but when you add in just absolutely everything that this movie means to me as far as this show goes, and the relationships that I've made, and this is a lot of people would think was the coolest part, and to me it's just another notch on an amazing belt that has been this show. But talking to some of these celebrities that you've grown up watching that you never thought in a million years you'd get a chance to actually sit down and have a conversation with and ask some questions and hear about their life, and they genuinely give a crap enough about you to give you an answer, and to talk back. And this show has just been amazing. So, again, not to get too much into to everything that we've kind of already gone with. I would have already rated this movie high, but because of all that nostalgia, I'm going to give it a 10. I would have already rated it probably a 9.75 even without it, but I'm going to give this movie a 10 because I think it deserves it, and by God, that's what it's going to get. I kind of already gave my least kill and or my least favorite kill and worst kill already, so I'll pass it on. Go ahead, man.
Ooh, that's
Awesome.
lofty. Lofty. I like it.
It's definitely going to get above the 5.5 the IMDb gives it. It's definitely going to go above that.
Hey, we were right there with it. 8.9375 is our rating. So
right there.
IMDb don't know shit.
Hey, like I said, all the haters go to IMDb to rate it anyway. So
there you go.
Y'all got any more final thoughts for? I'm gonna give it just a shout out to our blood donors after we got final thoughts. Anybody got final thoughts?
No, sir.
Dustin, any final thoughts? I really hate that. I really hate Mike couldn't be a part of this because it was his pick, and I know he loves the movie. We miss you tonight, brother. Yeah, and before I read the blood donors, this is a very sentimental movie. Every time I watch it now, I kind of think where my life would be honestly without it. Because as weird as that sounds, but we have a awesome show now that has had freaking Robert Englund on it, and Kane Hodder, and Heather Langenkamp, and we've had some legends on this show, and we wouldn't have them without this movie. So that's it's a lot to fathom, honestly. When I rewatch these movies and see these people we've interviewed, I'm like, holy crap, these are my favorite people in the movie, and we've had them on our show, and
right,
it's really hard to process that still. But I'm gonna give a shout out to our blood donors, our legendary blood donors, our super fan of the show, Ms. Joe Swinford, the man who hates all my movies, Mr. Sean Irwin. For some reason, he loves Halloween 3, brother Matt Sears. Super fan Shan. Shan, you're awesome. Appreciate everything you do for us.
Super awesome, but the last name we can't pronounce ever. So you're super fan Shan.
We got some Dream Warrior level blood donors, Miss Tasha Reed and brother Hunter Nelson, the only Gator fan in the world that I like. Just kidding. We got a camp counselor donator as well, Mickey McCrane. So thank you for all of your donations. It means the world to us. Yeah, so just know that your donations they truly are very, very, I don't even know how to express it. They mean a lot to us that you care so much about this show that you're willing to give us your money to help us pay for the things it costs to make a show. It means a lot to us. And big shout out to friend of the show and member of the Five at the Back Soccer Podcast, brother Eric Redding. Brother Bryan last week gave away a Loot Crate box, and my man Eric Redding won that. So big shout out to him. Awesome. Y'all got any final thoughts on it?
And as everything comes full circle, and Dustin wasn't with us last week, so he didn't know what question I asked. But the question I asked Dustin was, which episode of the show was your first intro into it? And so we brought that up 2 or 3 times here on this episode. So just everything's full circle.
Nice.
Any final thoughts before I announce my pick for next week?
Nope.
All right.
Let's do it.
Well, next week is definitely not anywhere near as good as this movie or Sleepy Hollow or something like that, or even Bone Tomahawk, or I might rate it higher, but it's not as good of a movie. I chose 2003's Wrong Turn. It's a film that I've picked several weeks, but kept changing my mind like 2 days before or 3 days before. I'll explain next week why I'm picking it, but I just think it's the right time to pick it. 2003's Wrong Turn is next week's pick. Just want to say thank you to all of our fans and listeners. We really appreciate the support. Big shout out to the Big 3 Roll Up Network for inviting us to join you. We're super excited about the partnership, and just expect another great episode next week, and we might even have some bonuses coming along. Y'all have a good one. Just want to remind everybody,